And welcome into KC Sports Tonight, sponsored by McDonald's, with Neal Jones joining the program. Folks, you're used to seeing Gabe Swartz here, but Neal, you're taking Gabe's spot. How does that feel to sit in his chair?
He would do a significantly better job than me. You know what I'm doing? I'm on my phone trying to figure out what Missouri's record is in basketball. I have yet. Last night I watched a little bit because I was anchoring. I watched a little bit of the Kansas meltdown or beat down or whatever you want to call it up in Omaha against Creighton. That's the first college basketball I've watched. I hate the fact that they start in November.
I agree.
And they play some really great games. I've listened to some games. When I'm in the car, I listen to the Brian Haney's called the Duke KU game out in Vegas, and it was really exciting. I really enjoyed that. But I'm football centric this time of year. Our college teams are wrapped up for the regular season right now. They all have bowl games, or at least two of the three have bowl games. So I've been kind of focused on college football on the weekends. And I wish they would move the Final Four back by about a month. There's some other media people around the country who are suggesting the same thing, because college basketball has this great thing going in November and December, but they get kind of lost in the shuffle. And, of course, we have that great NFL story here with the Kansas City Chiefs the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, really since 2013 when Andy Reid got here. It's just become center stage, and I don't even start thinking about college. And by the way, I didn't have a chance to do it. I don't know what Missouri's record is. I heard they played a crazy game, had that great second half a couple of nights ago. But normally the first college basketball I see is the Border War. I go out and cover it. This year I'm not going to be able to cover it because they're not playing on Saturday like they should. They're playing on Sunday up against the Chiefs.
I don't get it.
And we can't do it. Can you explain that to me?
No, I mean it's on national TV, but like that's not hard to do after all the college football games are over. So I don't understand why they picked that day. I get maybe they on the Saturday of college conference championship games, they thought they'd get more eyeballs on Sunday, but I don't think that's true. And wait another week.
Right.
That's
exactly
what they've done in past years. So, but no, you're right. KU has played a good schedule. Like there's been good KU games. North Carolina came to the Fog. You mentioned the Duke game. They played Michigan State in the Champions Classic. Creighton's not a bad game.
I wasn't at North Carolina. Why wasn't I at the North Carolina KU game, a 6 o'clock tip? Why wasn't I there? High school football.
Yeah, okay,
there's all this other stuff we cover, and so it's like every chance I think, I'm going to get a chance to go over there.
It's because they love the March Madness name and they want it to be done by them, but call it May Madness or shorten the season.
So there's a columnist down in Oklahoma City who covers college sports really, really well, and he's not afraid to put stuff like that out there. And he said, college basketball ratings are terrible when it's up against football. Football is the king of the hill when it comes to American sports. Okay, it just is. The numbers are there. The NFL's number one, and college football's right after it. And if you actually add up the number of viewers, there are more college football viewers because there's 115 teams than there are NFL viewers because there's only 32 teams, 16 games a week. So it adds up. But the point being that college basketball's banging their head against it, and he agrees with you that March Madness, the name is such a great name.
Sure.
That's what they want to do. Call it whatever you want to call it. They play the championship game usually
in April.
In April anyway, so call it March Madness and tip it off middle of April.
Yeah. Or May Madness.
Right.
Push it like have the season tip off on New Year's Eve. Or on Christmas Day, if you don't want to go up against in college football, none for New Year's Day, whatever.
But that's a bowl. That's Christmas holiday.
There's no bowl games on Christmas this year.
No, but I mean that week is a big bowl week for everybody. The lesser bowl games, the kind of bowl games that your alma mater and my alma mater will be playing in this year because they weren't very good. But
I mean, I don't put your alma mater and my alma mater in the same sentence. That Mizzou blew out Oklahoma this year, Neal. Don't you remember that game? What's that? It came down to a fluke ending? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Let's be honest. They would have blown out Oklahoma if they had Brady Cook, their quarterback, healthy. And I wish he had been healthy against Alabama. Maybe they have a little more of a chance down there.
Yeah.
I got to go over and cover senior day over at the University of Missouri.
Yeah, in the snow.
It was very, really cold. It was hard to get there. I thought they had a great crowd given the weather conditions and the fact that it was on.
That was a great environment.
It was on the cable network, so you could get it most places over there. And yet they wanted to go out there. I wonder how we will look back on this team, and I suspect from my standpoint, I was not at the Oklahoma game. Had I been there, I would have probably remembered that finish because it was so unbelievable. But that's what I'll remember is the great finishes against teams that really weren't really that well respected. They beat Arkansas on a great 30-yard touchdown run and a 2-point conversion, then kind of held on for dear life at the very end last week. Before that, they had to go to double overtime to beat Vanderbilt. We didn't know Vanderbilt was a good football team then. We found out they were a good football team, and they also kind of had a tight squeeze the second half against Boston College, if you can believe that, although I thought they were.
The Auburn game where Brady Cook went to the hospital, they had to come back and had a double-digit comeback and win that in the final minute and a half. You were at that game.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. So that's what I'm saying is I think I will not remember this as being a great Tiger team. What I will remember is that Theo Weiss had a great senior year. Brady Cook showed his mettle. I mean, how tough has he been to fight through these injuries? This was not a pretty year for him. And by the way, when you go to a college game and then you go to a Chiefs game or an NFL game, you're like, they're not even playing football in the NFL. You can't even look at a quarterback. You look at in college football, that game K-State versus Missouri last year, Will Howard going toe-to-toe with Brady Cook. Both guys got smash mouth. They both got hit in the mouth multiple times. It is football. You know what I mean? And I enjoy it. It's fun to watch. But I don't know that I'll remember this as a great Missouri team. Maybe they're probably better than I remember them. They just didn't blow people out. And their at-bats against really, really good competition on the road, they had problems. A&M just blew them out. A&M can do that to people down there in that stadium. They can get people down, and they are talented physically usually, and sometimes they can get it going, and that's what happened to Mizzou. Yeah. The Alabama game I thought was much more a situation where their quarterback got hurt, and they were unable to compete after that.
That was a close game until the end of the second quarter, and then it snowballed. Neal, I think you're accurate. The one thing I'll add in that is there is still a degree of what could have been with Mizzou in the sense that the only game that doesn't fit the narrative of close wins against good teams and blowout against the other two is at South Carolina in one of I think would have been the greatest comeback of the season, where they were down double digits, they come back, take the lead, then South Carolina takes the lead in the fourth quarter, then on 4th and 5 in the last minute, down 5 points, Brady Cook throws a 30-yard touchdown to Luther Burden, one-handed catch, makes a man miss, touchdown. And Neal, if Mizzou plays defense for 1 minute, and not just like if they don't let up a touchdown in that final minute, they are 10-2, and they are they probably have the last spot of the college football playoff. Okay, because they're a 10-2 team. Now, is Mizzou one of the best 12 teams in the country? I don't think so, but they could have had one of the top 12 resumes based on a 10-2 record in the SEC, despite not having strong victories. But when you're 10-2, you can just like Indiana.
But then they would have had a win at South Carolina, which is not a world beater. But you do that on the road.
Would have been better. Yeah,
I think people in the SEC understood that South Carolina was a really talented team.
Sure,
and they were a dangerous team.
I think they look at them better now because of that win over Mizzou. Had they lost to Mizzou, they'd have 4 losses, and so they would have dropped out of the top 25. But still, that would have been a great win. I think they get in. And so that, to me, Neal, is what could have been just as last year if we had the college football playoff, Mizzou absolutely would have been in. The year before that, if we had the college football playoff, Kansas State would have absolutely been in.
There's no question.
And so it's another season of thinking that, hey, we had a good local school, but that just missed out on the ultimate prize. But it's still been a really fun college football season. I know, Neal, and folks, if you're watching this, I know the headline. We'll get to the Chiefs. We'll get to the other schools. But more broad, Neal, because you and I both just love college football. Before the season, you were a little worried about, hey, maybe this new format takes away some of the love for the regular season. I don't think it did. I think it kept more. It
absolutely does.
It kept more teams alive, and it allowed a loss to not end your season, and that in turn kept teams alive.
No, it gives and takes. It gives you more teams that are alive and even going into these championship games. You've got some underdogs going, hey, we win, we're in.
Yeah.
Because we'll be the conference champion. I mean, there is no question but that it gives college football fans a lot. But what it takes away is, you had Georgia that went into Austin, Texas, and beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Texas might have been able to make it in as a one-loss team based on the rest of their schedule. They didn't play the hardest schedule nationally, but they went and they won at Michigan, right?
They trounced Texas A&M,
and they beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So that maybe they survived because they had enough other big wins. But it weakens a little bit when that game, that big showdown between two behemoths, it's like, well, what did it mean? At the end of the day, what did it mean? Well, it didn't mean anything because they both are going to be in the SEC championship game, and they're going to play. And there are people that say, hey, even if Texas or Georgia loses in the SEC championship game, they should be in the playoff. And so it's like that part of it.
I think they probably will be.
That part of it, it's, do you really want a Georgia team that's got 3 losses and lost their last game, but they get in because they got a big stadium and a big name? Is that
who would you have in over them? That's
we don't know where
Big 12 team. I mean,
we don't know where everything is, but you're telling me, look, nobody cares that in 1988 the Kansas Jayhawks sucked for most of the season.
Right.
Were one of the most disappointing teams in basketball. They got beat in the second round of the Big 8 tournament on on Saturday afternoon at Kemper Arena, beautiful Kemper Arena. And it was like the story that next day was, Kansas. I mean, so much was expected, and they got a second chance in the tournament, and they win the tournament as a 6th seed. It was unbelievable. So you got Cinderella stories, but do we really want to see Georgia go in off a loss with 3 losses? And look who they lost to.
Yeah. Well, and they should have lost to Georgia Tech. Did you see that 7 overtime game?
I didn't see any of it. I was working.
Crazy.
Remember, you had me on a story that night. Couldn't watch it. Thanks very much,
No,
Jared.
that was the Mizzou. Yeah, that was the Mizzou.
Yeah, I
didn't
wasn't
get back by then.
Yeah, I wasn't watching. Sorry about that. I was driving, trying to get back. I mean, it was 4.5 hours over there in the snow, and then I shot in the
drive
freezing.
as fast as I would have then.
Well, you couldn't drive fast because of the
snow. I shouldn't joke about that.
But no, because the traffic wasn't moving. I mean, I would have driven around people on the side of the road if I could have, but anyway. But so I guess that in some respects it's like
pros and cons.
I mean, get it. The brand names are going to get in on the brand names, and that's not.
I just don't think the depth is that great this year of teams. Like, I don't think Georgia's a good team, but like, if you take them out, like the team that nobody wants in right now is Alabama. They're 9-3. They also I think they're worse than Georgia. So like, if you take Georgia out or Alabama. No.
I thought that they beat Georgia.
No, let me check here. And Georgia's schedule isn't. Oh yeah, they did. That was Georgia's.
That was their big win. It was Alabama's big win.
Yeah, but Alabama also lost to Vanderbilt, lost to Tennessee, and then losing to Oklahoma by 21 should disqualify you from any college football playoff. That's egregious.
Well, they did it on national television,
I know.
and they're still getting votes. But here's the deal.
But it's like, I don't think Alabama should really get in, but they probably but I don't know who.
I thought they should have had all the conference champions get in, and then two at large schools. And then it's still a very exclusive thing, and it means something to be in. But they said, no, let's go to 12. Yeah. And so we are where we are. I thought it was too much.
Well, and it's the type of thing where Kansas State, though, moving to them, Neil, if they beat Houston, which they probably should have beat, then that Iowa State game would be playing for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. And if they win that, then Kansas State potentially could have got to the college football playoff. Now, you end up
terrible.
8-4, so it doesn't look like Kansas State's not ranked. It won't look like that. But this team, Neil, it could have. They could have won at Iowa State too.
Well, okay,
a degree of what could have been there too.
Let's talk about the 3 local schools because these were some interesting stories. Kansas State looked like they were going to be in the Big 12 championship game for about the first 8 weeks, and then they fall off. They just fall off. They lost 3 of their last 4 games, including that game at Houston. By the way, Houston's got talent, and what else do they have now? They have a coach Willie Fritz. He has won everywhere.
Local coach.
He leaves Tulane. Tulane finally got beat last Saturday, but they've been ranked almost the entire year. As a matter of fact, Oklahoma and Kansas State's biggest wins in some regard were the wins over Tulane.
Yeah.
I mean, Tulane's the real deal. And they got beat last week, so that'll damage there.
Right.
But the point is that you look at Kansas State has got some wins that are fairly impressive.
Sure.
But then when they had to get them late in the year, they get skunked. They get skunked at BYU. They get beat by a touchdown by 8 points at Iowa State in really, really tough situation up there. It was really cold, sellout crowd. And
at that point, Iowa State was playing for Big 12 championship, whereas Kansas State wasn't. I wasn't surprised, but I think on paper this team could have been better when you look at how they ran the ball. But the good news is you have Avery Johnson coming back for another year, and that's something we've talked about on air. Like, how do you judge Avery Johnson versus Will Howard? And I think the story of whether or not that was the right move will be written next year. Whereas Will Howard's story is now, well, I guess not written because Ohio State will make the college football playoffs, so he could change that. But he's coming off a bad loss against Michigan.
He threw 2 bad passes that got picked. But if you saw that game,
it wasn't really his fault. I don't think
that offensive line was completely unable to move Michigan at all, and they were the Michigan won the line of scrimmage in both of those. On both sides, and that's kind of what won it. It wasn't that Will Howard played an awful game.
I know some people say that because all the blame goes to the quarterback, but I don't think
he gets paid the most.
And he'll have a chance to that's the thing. They'll still make the college football playoff, and I think
6 of the top 12 teams right now are teams that have quarterbacks who they brought in through the transfer portal.
That's the new. That's what Mizzou's going to do next year, right, Neil? And Brady Cook's gone. They got to bring someone.
Well,
in.
they've got a stud recruit, but I think Oklahoma has proven they're their poster child. They allow a guy to walk away, Dylan Gabriel. They allow him to walk away. He goes to Oregon. He's going to be an All-America, even if he doesn't win the Heisman. He's a guy that's up for all of those awards. And look at what Oklahoma went through. They had one of the top, the top recruit in their history. They brought him in, but he didn't have anything around him, and he's terrible. And so he's leaving, and Oklahoma's like, you know what? Let's go out to the portal and get a guy. Let's pay the $2 million or whatever it costs and get the next Dylan Gabriel or the next Will Howard or the next big-time recruit that comes in who's a proven guy.
Are you saying Jackson Arnold is the next quarterback of the Missouri Tigers?
I think, you know what? I think he's a guy that I would put some money on.
Yeah,
and the reason I say that is he's paid his dues. He has made all the mistakes. As a first-year starter, no running game, his top 6 wide receivers out. It was like he had no chance. Patrick Mahomes would not have succeeded with that offense this year. His receivers were all hurt, everybody. The guys from ABC were doing the Alabama game, and they were both going, we have never seen anything like this. The top 6 wide receivers are hurt, like broken foot hurt, like concussion hurt, and so unlucky. And then they couldn't run the football because their offensive line was so bad. So no, I think guys like that are the guys you want that have been they played for a couple of years and they're ready to take over and be successful. Brady Cook and Will Howard both suffered through their first years as starters. They really rode the ups and downs because they're trying to learn while they're playing. And it was hard on both of them. They both survived. And look what you had the last couple of years. Really good football players. So why in the world are you going to put all the money on a younger guy when you can bring in an older guy and say, welcome to the club. 100%. You're now a Wildcat. You are now a KU Jayhawk. You're now a Missouri Tiger. And who's to say that's not the wave of the future? That's what I would do if I owned a university.
Yep, and and stay tuned if that'll happen in the near future. And then the other guy, although I'll mention also your boy Lincoln Riley's quarterback Miller Moss, and the transfer porter from USC. He's been linked to Mizzou as well. Mizzou has Matt Zollers, the true freshman, and Sam Horn, of course, who competed with Brady Cook to be the starter 2 years ago.
And Sam Horn will be better. He was hurt this year, but he will be better from all the experience he's had standing around and being in the meetings.
But coming off an injury and that they didn't trust him early on in his career, I feel like they're going to look for, as you said, someone who's already gone through the fire. And is that unfair to Sam Horn? Maybe, but that's college football now. And the same deal goes now with Jalen Daniels. Neil, is he coming back? He has that COVID year because that's how old he is. He could come back. Should KU want him back? Should they try to go in the transfer portal? What should they do?
I think I would be very careful because good Jalen has been unbelievable. Bad Jalen
has been unbelievably bad.
Is the reason they're not in the bowl game, and that's tough. But I like him a lot. I liked his attitude. I liked him in press conferences after losses. Let me tell you something. You learn a lot more about people after they lose a game they really wanted to win, than you do after a win. After a win, the meanest, biggest jerks in the world are all smiles. And then you see them lose, and suddenly they're cussing and they're yelling at the student assistants on the sideline, and they're acting like jerks. You learn a lot about players and coaches at every level in any sport, male, female, whatever, that from a loss, a lot more from a loss than you do a win. And Jalen Daniels, I was in that room, for the press conference, and he's being asked all this stuff about, what happened or what's this or what's that. And I was so impressed. He didn't make excuses about himself, and he basically said, we're not giving up. We don't get we don't have 20-year careers in college. Every game is big.
And they didn't give up.
And they did not give up. And so I think that if I were at a school and I'm like, I don't know that if I'm at Ohio State or something like that I'm going for Jalen Daniels. But there are a lot of schools that ought to look at him and say, this guy's a leader. He's been through it. When he's healthy, he plays well. And so I'd have to give him a chance.
Yeah, it's interesting. This season did not go as KU planned, not as Jalen Daniels planned. All the pieces were there. Like, that's the other thing. It's not just the Jalen Daniels factor, Neal. Like, they're losing a lot of guys. Like, Devin Neal ain't walking through that door. All their wide receivers, like, now it's a rebuild to –
It's a different world, though.
But you can rebuild it quick. It's just going to test Lance Leipold in a way that he hasn't been tested in a couple of years. I mean, this team was set.
It used to take 5 years to build something. It really did, because you were limited on how many scholarships you could get out per year.
Sure.
So if you had 50 available scholarships because everybody left or flunked out, you couldn't sign 50 kids. Now, if you've got 85 scholarships, you could literally sign 85 new guys through the portal, high school or the portal. You could do whatever you want. And it's look at Colorado. They went from the laughingstock where year after year after year they won one or two games. In 2 years, what are they at? Are they at 8 wins or 9? They were at 9 wins this year.
Top 25 team. Yeah.
And he did it by signing. He has 95 total new players over the last 2 years. 95.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Deion's the blueprint for what you want to do, but it worked for him. So others can.
If you're, it's like Bill Self said. Bill Self said, if we lose a player, a recruit, to Texas, because Texas signed some kid that they were recruiting down in Dallas or something. And so at the next press luncheon, someone said, Coach, how bad do you, this is while we're eating, this is not on camera, Coach, how bad do you feel about Texas getting that guy? He goes, that's all right, they're going to get their guys. Sure. He said, we're going to get our guys. Every time we lose a player, you know what it is? An opportunity. Because we're Kansas. We're going to get good players. Well, good football programs and good coaches who are respected are going to get players. They're going to be people who want to come play for you. Yeah. Missouri has built that up.
Well,
right?
Missouri's recruiting class is great. Once again, no, they have. I mean, that's something that Drinkwitz has always been really strong at. It's started really with Luther Burden, who's now leaving his college. That's the crazy thing. Not crazy thing, Neal, but like how quickly some of these college careers go. Like, remember the hype around Luther Burden? It was massive. And now he's gone.
He's declared for the NFL draft, right?
Yep.
That does not mean that A&M couldn't come in and go, look,
Right.
As a rookie in the NFL, this is how much money you can make because there's a salary cap on rookies.
That's something I brought
We
up
ain't
to
got a
Hennessy,
salary cap.
yeah.
We don't have a salary cap.
I think he's done
at
at
A&M.
Mizzou, but I said there's a small chance that a major player could come in because Luther Burden did not have the final year that he probably wanted. If somebody wanted to come in and really blow his doors off, and if he looked at the mock drafts and saw, oh, he's only the 26th pick instead of the 6th pick, maybe. But regardless, I think his time at Mizzou is over.
But if you were going to do it, you would do it with we've got the best quarterback in America. Whoever.
Right.
And we want to pair him up with you, and then we got another wide receiver who's going to be a first-round draft pick. You're going to elevate yourself, and we will pay you guys more than you can make as rookies in the NFL. That's the only caveat.
Yeah. I don't think that'll happen.
No, I don't think so either. I think,
it's a fair point. So,
well, he went to Mizzou because it was the best business opportunity for him. So he's a guy that's thinking about
that out, and to make it cool to go to Mizzou and show that St. Louis kids can go to Mizzou and be successful and really, change the program because the two most iconic players of the Drinkwitz era so far, Brady Cook and Luther Burden.
Well,
and they both benefited by each other.
What about you're forgetting Jeremy Macklin?
No, most iconic Mizzou players of the Drinkwitz era.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy Macklin's better.
I thought I'm just saying I thought that he did a lot for Mizzou in St. Louis.
Yes.
And the guy that they wanted so bad and they thought it came down to them in Ohio State, was Ezekiel Elliott from the
Yes.
and I think that was a guy. I've never seen Gary Pinkel I've never seen a head coach ever on signings day so down. He was like,
well, he knew how good he was. I mean,
because I think he saw that was a guy that could be like a Luther Burden. Luther Burden was that catalyst.
Yeah.
He was the best player in the state, one of the best players in the entire country coming out of high school. And when you get him, he's a magnet.
Right.
Other people are going to want to play with him.
And Pinkel's teams didn't need Ezekiel as bad as Drinkwitz's teams needed Burden. I think I'm confident in saying that. Now it's even better when you look at the talent Drinkwitz is bringing in. But when we think back to when Burden committed, remember he was, Oklahoma in the mix, Georgia, Alabama, and he chose Mizzou coming off a season where, they hadn't won a Cotton Bowl. They hadn't won potentially 10-win seasons in back-to-back years like they will this year. So, but we'll have more to talk Mizzou. Neal, final thoughts as we wrap things up on the Chiefs. It's interesting. You have had a sideline view of this team all year long, and I'm wondering your impression of the vibes in each game. Like, is it as negative in the moment? Like, are you feeling the stress or the, oh no, another close game? Like, what do you feel when you're on the field?
I always shoot in the end zone the Chiefs are coming towards,
Yeah.
either with offense or their defense. So if there's a pick six, it comes right to me. If there's a long touchdown run or pass, it comes to me. And the only time I switch that is if we get in the last 7.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, the other team is driving away from me, and they can take the lead with a score. Then you have to move down because this is potentially the game-winning score, and you understand, or the winning score, and you understand if there's a pick six, then I'm not going to be in position to get that very well. But I've had to go down week one. I'm like, I can't believe. Ravens drive the field. I got to flip. I got to go down there. So I'm over there right by the on the sideline, and I see the play out. And I thought it was a touchdown, and the guy, his toe landed out of bounds. The Chiefs win, and it was dramatic. And then every game since then, it seemed like, other than the Saints game, I've had to be down there in case the Bucs won because they drove all the length of the field. If they'd gone for two, I had to be there.
Broncos, field goal.
Everything. And it's just, there is a sense that this is a team that is not closing out games.
Okay.
And I don't think it's because they're not trying. I don't think it's because they're badly coached. I think it's been they aren't good enough on offense or defense to close out games. They don't have a dominant pass rush to get off the field and to overwhelm the other team's quarterback. They haven't had that. Hopefully they might get there with Omenahu, right? If he can, he's coming back from that knee. He did not look 100% to me. The coach today said, Steve Spagnuolo said, he was pretty good. And that's how I looked at it. He looks like he's pretty good. He's nowhere near as physically active as he will be because, hopefully that knee keeps getting better and stronger.
But just his presence alone, I thought, did make a nice
that's great. But on their offense, they haven't been explosive enough to be able to make the long plays upfield. They haven't been able to protect the quarterback well enough. Their running game has not gotten them chunk plays until they get Isaiah Pacheco back last week, and he had, a 33 or 34-yard run?
Yeah, only 7 carries. 6 of them did nothing. But that one... that's all you need.
But that's what they have not had.
Exactly.
And so I've got to hope that they can be, they say all the right things, but it's really kind of what they do on Sunday. I'm not down on them. I keep expecting them to make big plays, and they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah. What
I really hope happens is that Hollywood Brown, this is not a guy who's coming back with a bad ankle or a bad knee. This is a guy that had a shoulder problem, and he makes his living with his hands and his legs. Guess what? They haven't been affected. If they,
Yeah, it's more the chemistry, like how much time will it take for him and Mahomes to get on the same page? You'd think he would know the playbook in and out.
He's been in every meeting. He's been there every day.
So you would think so, but that's easier said than done in games.
But at least he had camp.
Well, yes,
at least he had camp.
It sounds like he might be able to get a game in him before the postseason, which I think would be massive.
Juju wasn't in camp. He came in the third game. He actually had a good game. They were so desperate to get him. Mm-hmm. They've had a bunch of guys they brought in who were, now they're trying to bring in
Hopkins.
They're trying to bring in an offensive tackle who's coming off a knee injury less than 12 months ago. Mm-hmm. You don't know. Look, there is no question that Wanye Morris has been affected by the knee injury he's got. Sure. He cannot even move. And I told you the other day, I talked to a former Chiefs offensive lineman who's a scout who said, dude, you guys aren't even talking about the fact he's hurt. You guys don't think that we're athletes. You just think we're big fat guys who get in the way. And I'm like,
but he's out there.
I said, Andy Reid won't talk about injuries. The players won't talk about injuries. Creed Humphrey was hurt last year, couldn't snap very well. And everybody acted like he forgot how to snap the football. He's okay this year because he's healthy. So I'm like, how do we talk about injuries when the coach forbids it? And so we're not, and I don't go in there and talk to the doctors.
But he's not hurt enough not to, like, if he was really hurt, Neal, he wouldn't be out there. Well, so, like, if you're out there, I think you're open to criticism.
No. I don't. No, I think you can criticize him.
Right.
But I'm just saying there's a reason why he has been unable to do his job.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that all goes hand. Like, it's really interesting, Neal. Football is the ultimate team game where every little thing impacts everything. It's one of the reasons why I love baseball is, like, it's a one-on-one, like, you know, you can't, like, it's one-on-one, right? In football, Neal, the left tackle play affects the wide receiver. Like, Xavier Worthy is not having as great of a year because the left tackle play hasn't been good.
Right.
Which is wild, but, like, if Mahomes doesn't have enough time to throw the deep ball, it doesn't matter if Worthy's getting open. And so it's like it's all connected. But if that improves, everything gets better.
If you want to drive yourself crazy, think about Worthy's season this year. If Hollywood's healthy, if Rashee Rice is healthy, and if they got a left tackle, then he's just a little guy running around going, nothing's expected of me, and everybody's they're pulling the defense over that way. They've got to rotate it that way because you got Rashee Rice running a middle route, and you've got Travis Kelce running down there, and you got the world's quickest human in the world, Hollywood Brown. And here I am on the other side. They can't double cover me.
No, it was a great plan. But I think even that, yes, but even just the left tackle, like forget Rice and Brown, I think that'd be great. But if the left tackle would just be average, I think that makes a difference. The problem was too many times this year, it's not been average. And so that's why I have.
But at least the right tackle's been great.
Well, the right tackle has been probably average.
Just a second. Are you okay? One of our photographers back there is editing, and I think he just had a heart attack because I said that.
Gabe Schwartz is performing the Heimlich maneuver behind us.
By the way, Gabe Schwartz.
Yes. Not
going to the Christmas party with his fiancée. Wow. Instead, going to see his alma mater ASU play. Mm-hmm. Reputedly, I don't know this, but there are allegations that he is going to dress up like the Sun Devil and try to get into the stadium without pain.
That's I
go to my Facebook page. You will see what I'm talking about. I got my picture taken with him at the K-State game.
Hey, listen, however you can get
it's him. He's like this tall, and he's got a little goofy thing on. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I get to go to the Christmas party for the first time in like 5 years.
Yeah.
My wife is like, saying you better be able to go because we don't have border war basketball,
right?
And the high school football starts late enough that I can do both.
Yep. So, if Neal Jones looks a little off Saturday night. The
last thing I would ever do is engage in the kind of activities you do on weekends. I'm not going to drink around people
when I work
work
here till 11 o'clock. Right. Yes. Shout out Gabe. Shout out Kenny Dillingham. I'm rooting for the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Me too. I like it.
Okay.
Well, wait. No. I like Iowa State a lot, too. They got a bunch of Kansas City kids on the team. I'm rooting for Iowa State. I hate ASU. I just remembered that.
I like the ASU story.
No, they're a good team, and I think they're a great addition to the Big 12.
And one of their losses came with Jeff Sims at quarterback, who's not a good quarterback. So, really, I think they're like a one loss. Actually, Gabe had said the College Football Playoff Committee should treat them as a 1.5 loss team. And I thought that was interesting. So, I think they should be one of the best, should be one of the top 12 teams in the country. And so that Gabe can watch a college football playoff team.
Who's going to win the basketball game Sunday?
Kansas. And I don't think it's going to be that close.
So you never answered my question. Is Missouri any good at basketball this year?
They are a bubble team for the tournament, which is a significant upgrade because, Neal, they didn't win a conference game at all last year.
It was so bad. It was. I forgot that, and I was looking at some stuff.
But they've got dudes, and the year before that, they had a great turnout. So it's like, I'm not down on Dennis Gates. I like
the coach. I do, too. I root for him.
I think a lot of Mizzou fans overreacted to last year. I also don't blame them for overreacting because losing all conference games is not bad. Just the way they lost was kind of fluky. Like, they were in most games until the last 4 minutes, then just collapsed every single time. That's weird, okay? It shows you're a bad team, but, like, I don't think they were that bad. We'll see.
Better than Creighton.
Yeah, well, okay. All right, that'll do it for K Sports Tonight. James Shields, salute. Have a great night, everyone.